Awesome.
All right.
And as I kind of mentioned a second ago, we talked to people about what they believe and why, and we leave that open enough to let them pick whatever direction they want to go in, whatever is something that they deeply, truly believe, something that they're really confident in, something that has a lot of influence or weight on their life. Is there any belief that you have like that you'd want to talk about for 5 minutes?
Well, I'm a Christian, so
Okay.
we can talk about Christianity and my faith in God.
Okay.
As why I believe in God.
Okay, awesome. So you're a Christian, believing in the Christian God. If we were to just, and I know we've had conversation before, but just to bring it back up to speed, if you were to say, as a Christian believing in the Christian God, how confident would you say you are in the existence of that God? If 100% is your all confidence, no doubt, there's no way you could be mistaken, and 0 is no confidence, all doubt, you absolutely could be mistaken and probably are. Where would you put yourself on there?
Where would I put myself? Let's see. Because most of my faith comes from my own anecdotal
Okay.
incidents, It's all anecdotal. And my faith just comes from the events that occur in my life. So experience is part of it.
So personal experience?
Personal experiences have a lot to do with why I believe in God.
Okay.
It's not something like it's absolute. Like God is real because I believe in God. I believe that everybody has a right to their own beliefs.
Okay.
And for me, I'm confident that God exists, but that's only because of my own experiences. I can't account that for everybody.
Okay. And if you were to self-identify on that scale, where would you put yourself on that scale?
Well, like my faith, it's like, because, as a Christian, I get reminded constantly in church, like, you're a flawed human being because you've sinned on God, and that's most of where my faith comes from. So sometimes it's like my faith is high, then it gets low. I like all human beings, I'm skeptical.
So just to make it easy, where would you put yourself
Like
at
a
now?
6.
Six out of 10?
6 out of 10.
Okay,
yeah.
so like 60%?
Yeah, 60% confident.
Okay. And so you're saying you're at about 60% confidence because of personal experiences that you've had in your life.
Experiences.
60% personal experience. Okay. And so what would be, if you don't mind just exploring a little bit more, what would be your best example of a personal experience that you had that made you so confident that a God actually exists?
Okay, well, I wasn't born to say this, but my mom, she's very religious. She's a Christian. So I'd say Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
And well, when I was born, she almost died from anesthesia overdose.
I'm sorry.
So thankfully she survived, and it's her faith that just like keeps her going on in life. So there's that. Everything that goes on, and it's like we always say it's a miracle, and it's because of our faith why these miracles happen. Just like my nephew, well, far nephew, he premature birth, and so stuff like that. We say because a baby's life, it's a hit or miss. They either die or they're born alive. So every time they're born, I think of a child's life as a miracle.
Yeah, okay.
It's like I was born, and thankfully my mom was able to survive with me.
But now when you say miracle, what do you mean?
Okay.
Like if you had to give a definition of miracle.
A miracle would be something extraordinary, something
Extraordinary? So it's not common?
Well, like extraordinary in the sense that it was able to happen, and it happened safely, calmly, perfectly. It was executed.
So it was possible to be done safely, and it was done safely, and that's a miracle?
Well, it was a miracle because, for me, birth is something beautiful, so that's why I would put it into that.
So a miracle is something beautiful? I'm just trying to I'm trying to understand. Like, if you were to say that this is a miracle, are you just saying that is beautiful, or like what is it when you're trying to impart or relay? If you say that is a miracle.
Well, yeah, like it's a miracle because it has its own. How would you say? Its own uniqueness. You could say, like us human beings, we're unique, and it's like impressive about what our bodies can do. That's unique. and you say, wow, life is so beautiful, and you see the good in life, and then you realize, oh, life is so important, that's why I must live. And you get rid of that cynicism in life, that cold truth, and it's good to be truthful. That's one thing that I keep getting reminded of, the harsh, cold reality that still exists in this earth. But then there's that beautiful part about life.
Okay, so I'm still a little fuzzy, but a miracle is something beautiful?
Something that just...
Like how would you distinguish between something that's a miracle and something that's not a miracle?
Alright, well, okay, so like, it'll be like, thankfully this thing happened, you get me?
So if I have a test and I want to get an A and I get an A, thankfully that happened, so that's a miracle? Because I was hoping and I wanted it to happen. And let's say I didn't study and I was like,
then that would make it a miracle. You'd be like, wow, I got an A.
Oh, but would you say that would be a miracle? Like, it wouldn't be the case that I just paid extra attention in class and I didn't need to study or anything like that? Or like, what would make that an actual miracle?
Like, you got me. All right, so like, you said you studied and you got an A. You didn't study and you got an A.
Uh-huh.
Now, thankfully, it happened.
Uh-huh.
That's a miracle. Like, you're.
So that's,
For me, it'd be like, oh, I was blessed with intelligence. Like, wow, it's amazing what the human brain is capable of doing.
Okay.
Like, it's like these things that you take for granted, but then it happens, and then you realize the importance, the beauty of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it makes more sense. Sorry, I wasn't kidding.
No, you're fine. And so, just to kind of go back real quick, you said you're at about 60% because you've had these personal experiences.
Yeah.
Now, and you said that these personal experiences led you specifically to believing in the Christian God.
Yeah.
Good, thanks. You vote November 8th?
Now, if you were born, let's say in India, and you lived in a family that everyone was Hindu, they were Hare Krishnas, they all believed in Krishna, and your mom, giving birth to you, almost died because of the anesthetics, the anesthesia. She almost died, and she survived. And she said that the reason she survived was because of Krishna, the god Krishna. Would you still find yourself at the spot that you're at believing in the Christian God, or do you think that you'd be believing in the Hindu god Krishna?
Okay. Yeah. It's like it has to do with the social cultural factors of where I'm at.
That's what I understand. So like, if you were in a different social cultural area, like if you were born in India, and your whole family was Hindu and your friends were Hindu and you've had these experiences,
I would most likely be Hindu. Yeah.
Really?
It depends on the milieu of the person, right? So it's important that to understand culture and all these things. What makes us unique? That's one of the reasons why I take a little bit of pride in being a Christian, because it's part of my culture.
Okay.
That it comes with me. It goes with me. It's a full package. My mom was converted. Like she's always been a Christian when she was born because of her grandparents, and my grandfather was. So it's like down the generation. It's down my generation.
So you're saying that right now you're 60% confident that the Christian God exists because of the culture and society that you were raised with, even though if you were raised in India, you'd be 60% confident that the Hindu god Krishna exists? What does that say about the truth of the actual belief? Like, could they both be true? Could it be true that both the Christian God and the Hindu God exist? Or is maybe one right or one wrong, or maybe both wrong?
Yeah, like I get like this. Like there's this one song by John Frusciante.
Okay.
And he says, if something is nothing, then it must not be something in any possible way.
Okay.
So it's possible that these things can be true. Truth is a subjective thing.
Really?
Depending on the person. So I say like the Christian God is real. That's because I'm saying because I believe the Christian God is real. If somebody says that the Hindu God is real, then that's because they believe that the Hindu God is real.
But does that actually mean that both the Christian God and the Hindu God are actually real? Like
there's something, yeah.
Well, let's say that you have two people. One person says, I believe that drinking bleach is not going to kill me. And so for me, that belief is true. And then for another person, they say, I believe that drinking bleach is going to kill me. And so for them, that belief is true. Would you say that in both situations, that the person can drink the bleach, and because they have the belief that they're not going to be hurt, that it's actually going to be the case that they're not going to be hurt? Or could it be the case that...
There is absolutism in there. Yeah, and then it'll be relativism, where something is real to me, it must not be real to you. Yeah, I see where you're going.
So with something with the idea of a God, would it be possible for both the Christian God to exist in reality and the Hindu God to exist in reality?
In reality, like...
Not just thinking it in your mind.
Yeah.
Like I said, like anyone can think that poison's not going to kill them, but that doesn't make it true. So I guess that's what I'm trying to understand is, just because someone's like, oh, it's true to me, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the case in reality. And so if you were born in America in a Christian household and you're 60% confident that you're believing in the Christian God as being real, but if you were in India, you'd be at this current same conversation and you'd use the exact same reasons, my personal experience, all these things happened to me and they worked out, my parents have been believing in it and they're happy with it, and you'd be 60% confident that the Hindu God is real. Now, let's say that it is the case that the Christian God isn't real, okay?
Yeah.
But you're currently right now at 60% believing that it is real. And you're believing in it because of the personal experiences that you've had and the culture that you were raised in. But if the Christian God wasn't real, would there be any way for you to find out that it wasn't real before you die? Or would you be living your entire life believing in something that's not true?
Well, personally, I enjoy being a Christian. This is something I really like. You know, reading the book, the literature in the scriptures, it's actually very, very remarkable how they write these things. The Psalms, those are written beautifully, and according to the Bible, they were written by David. So,
but do you just to interject real quick, do you think that it's still possible for you to enjoy all of the scriptures and think that they're beautiful works of literature and just not believe that there's actually a God out there? Like, why?
I think there's a possibility. Reza Aslan makes a case. He's like, religion is just a form of communication with one another.
Okay.
So like different cultures, you know, they can communicate. If somebody was saying, I was washed and I can see the light, you know, you see that they were Christian, they would have something else to say, that the same thing, but in Islam, you get me?
Yeah, exactly.
So
they're talking about the same thing but using different words.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up so you don't have to stick too long. But to go a little bit further, you're 60% right now because you've had these personal experiences given the society that you were raised in. But you're familiar with people that don't believe in gods at all. They don't see any reason to believe in a god. They might have been raised in a family where they didn't have God beliefs or anything like that. I'm not saying that they're right, but if it was the case that they were right, and you're currently at 60% because of your personal experiences, how would you discover that they were right and you were holding mistaken belief?
That is interesting. Like, how would I know that they were right and I was wrong all along?
Even though right now you're at 60% and you're basing it all on personal experience and your family.
Yeah, because most people, they just want like solid, concrete evidence to prove that a God is real. So that's what I would want as well. But
is that what you used?
I would still cling to my faith.
Is that what you used to arrive at the belief in the Christian God? Did you have that absolute, concrete, hardcore evidence?
No.
So why would you require it of?
It's like more like I could not go to church. I could choose to not go to church. My parents would actually be really cool with that. They would be okay with me not attending, but I like attending. It's like fun, the music, you know.
Absolutely. It's the community involved.
The community, all of that.
So to piggyback off that, if you discovered an alternative community that had the same type of a setup where you've got a whole bunch of people, they get together, they sing and have fun and make relationships and socialize and go out on events and volunteer in the community and give back and do all of these things, except no one there believes in a God, would you still see any reason to stick to the one that does believe in a God? Or
That's why I attend college. Like it's a public college. We got a lot of people, different backgrounds, different beliefs, different areas, different cultures. So when you come in here, I could bring my faith, I can indoctrinate it, or I could just choose to be open to everyone else's beliefs. And what makes us all unique is that we all hold different beliefs, and we all believe in them. Hopefully, vehemently, we cling to these very harsh. Like for me, I cling on to the Ten Commandments. And I know I am a flawed person because I've broken some, like lying, stealing. So those are some of the. So
there's mainly
that's like
four that people are concerned about. They don't care really about the other six. Like don't take the Lord in vain. Don't worship any other
gods. Don't
blaspheme. Honor thy parents.
Honor
like okay, the most ones are like don't steal, don't kill, don't lie.
Honor thy mother, thy father is very important. It's like one that like most of us have broken at least once or twice. And then you see that God in the Bible holds people to a really high standard. Almost wants us to be perfect. Then you realize that we're humans, and no, we're not perfect, and no, we don't have the answers to everything. So it's always good to I've actually tried to read the Quran. I have the Hindu book, the Bible.
Okay.
I got it from a monk here at the school. So yeah, I'm finding the time to read it.
Yes.
Because I can hold on to
Gita,
I can hold on to my Christian beliefs, but I also I'm open to other beliefs, and I want to read upon them, their culture, and get to know it. Because we're in college, and we can learn about everybody before we can make these judgments. That's one of my problem with some Christians, where we just are quick to judge people, but what can break down stereotypes is like how Christina Hoff Summer said it, friendship.
Yeah.
If we become friends and we get to know people, all of a sudden these stereotypes break, and we see these people like, oh, this is a really fun individual. And the last thing I see in people is like where they come from, who they are. I just see them as a person. Like, wow, this person's really cool. I don't really care about his ethnic background, his race, and they probably don't care about mine. And we can have these discussions about politics, religion, everything. And it'll be so much better if we can all have that kind of open-mindedness, but at the same time, we can hold on to our beliefs just enough to if we have something to back it up, or if we want to preach it, we can. Like for me, I can preach a little bit. I'm trying to get to.
What do you mean when you say if we can back them up?
Like if you can defend your beliefs. Like for me, with my Christian beliefs, for me it's all based on faith.
What do you mean by faith?
Like, do I really believe?
Well, what would your definition of faith be if you had to define faith?
Faith. Let's see. Faith is your own belief. Your reassurance, your assurance of something, how much you really believe in it. That's why I'm saying my faith in God is 60%, because
So faith to you would be the same as confidence?
Confidence, you can say that.
Okay.
Kind of.
Would it be I want to be as accurate as I can. Would it be any different, or?
Faith, confidence. I mean, it's pretty synonymous here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So.
Because in the Bible, and some people in the Bible, there are people who also had their skeptic.
Yeah.
They were skeptical of God as well.
My favorite depiction of the skeptic is always in every movie or anything my favorite version of a skeptic is always the one in the Santa Claus movies, because the skeptic is like, no, there is no Santa Claus. Stop it, kids, you're being silly. And they're like, no, it's real. Seeing is believing. And the dad's like, no, there's no Santa Claus. And then of course there is a Santa Claus. And you hear that and you're like, oh, it was so silly for you to be a skeptic, even though there actually was a Santa Claus. And I find that interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I guess to understand, what is your confidence based on? Is it based on anything? Like you're 60% confident that this God exists. You're 60%, you have 60% faith that this God exists. And part of it, you said, had to do with personal experience. Part of it had to do with you enjoy being a Christian. It's actually, the community itself is amazing. But with something like personal experience, do you think it's possible for someone to have a personal experience and claim that it was because of something, and it turns out that they're wrong and it was because of something else?
Yeah. It's for me, there has to be something absolute. Yeah. So what we attribute to it may be wrong or correct.
So how did you determine that the personal experiences that you had were the result of the Christian God and not because of coincidence or chance or another God?
Well, because I was born in the church, so they say prayer is the reason why. So I just say, we pray, we sing the songs, we tell the pastor, can you pray for us for health? Can you pray for us for happiness and to get rid of my problems?
Like, how does that reassure you that you're correct? Like, would it be possible for someone to go through all those stages, to pray and do all of that and still be mistaken?
Yeah.
And so how did you determine that after going through all that, you're not mistaken?
Yeah, well, for me, it's still like, there could be a different attribution, but, my own belief. So, like, there are some people who don't go to church, who live an ambivalent life, and they're very, destructive to themselves. And they eventually come to God, and they humble themselves, and then they're much happier because of that. Like, after they get involved with the church, they start preaching, they go in.
Would you say it's possible for someone to get into a cult of some fake thing that's out there and experience the same things, have the same positive benefits on their life and everything like that? So the same kind of a thing is you can't have all of these positive things happen to your life, but it still could be the case that you're not believing in something that's true.
Yeah.
Or it could be something else. So how do you determine what that is?
Yeah, that's where I'm like, because for me it's like prayer, go to church. I go to church every Saturday.
But would you say that someone can pray for something and be mistaken?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so once in the same thing, you pray,
I could be
you
wrong,
go to church, and you could be wrong.
I could be wrong, yeah.
But you're at 60% because you enjoy being a Christian. And just to clarify with that, what does enjoying being part of it how does that have anything to do with its actual existence?
It's actually,
like, once again, to go with a famous one is the flying spaghetti monsters. Not, like I said, I don't want to compare them and make it silly, but I mean, if you've got someone that's like, I believe in the flying spaghetti monster and I enjoy being a Pastafarian, we have spaghetti every Friday, it's amazing, would that have any weight on whether that flying spaghetti monster is actually true? Like, if they say, I am 60% sure that the flying spaghetti monster is real because I like being a Pastafarian, would that...
to all their own, I guess. But I mean,
but does enjoying being something make that actual thing true?
No.
And so if just enjoying being a part of it and personal experiences can both be mistaken, would you say 60% confidence is the most accurate position to find yourself at? If it's possible that you could be mistaken, that it could be something else, and that just because you enjoy being it doesn't necessarily make it true?
Yeah, that's true.
So
I mean, it's like a coin flip for me. It's like, if God is real, then hopefully I go to heaven, or if not, I will face eternal judgment for my sins. Or if tails, I mean, I live my whole life as a Christian.
But that's what I'm trying to understand is, earlier you said it was 60%.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's the most accurate? Because you compared it now to a flip of a coin, which is a little
50-50s.
So would you say 50-50 would be closer than 60%? Would that be a more accurate position to find yourself at? Or?
I mean, yeah, kind of. Because, I have my own biases. That's why I say 60%.
Okay.
But, it could be 50-50. I could flip a coin, and if it's heads, then
What would you say would be the most honest and accurate representation of your beliefs? If we were to truly think about it, would you say that if I were to honestly think about how confident I am, would you say it's more 50-50, or would you say it's more in the direction of 60?
I would say it is, in reality, it could be a 50-50 chance, but for me, it's like my own personal anecdotal experiences and all that, it's 60%. Like, even though, like, people can... That's what I'm interested in exploring. What is the difference between it being 50% in reality and 60% to you? Where, like I said, you can have someone that's like, okay, in reality, poison's going to kill me, but there's a 60% chance that it's not going to... Like, how does that... Yeah. That's hard. It's really something to think about. Like,
okay.
I have a lot to go over.
No worries.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up right now. I think there was just one other thing that I wanted to ask, and it was on the tip of my tongue, and I feel like I might have been... I think now I'm forgetting it. We were talking... you enjoyed it. You had the personal experiences. I think that might be it. I'm trying to make sure that I touched on everything. Just to maybe go over one more time.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to clarify. Earlier you said 60% confident because you enjoy being a Christian, even though you said that has nothing to do with
With the faith itself.
with it actually being true. And you also said personal experience, even though you said that even
It can apply to anything.
doesn't. So if those are your two reasons for being 60% confident, and both of those other reasons can be used to be 60% confident in the flying spaghetti monster, is 60% confident really the most accurate position to place yourself at, given the reasons that you've used to come to that?
Yeah, because then like the stuff in the scriptures also kind of makes sense to me, you know?
Okay.
Like the parts.
That's what I wanted to ask. You had mentioned that. If you you mentioned, you said the scriptures kind of make sense to you too. Much in the same way, though, that you can have someone from India say the Bhagavad Gita makes sense to me, and so that's what's keeping me up there as well. You know what I mean? But that wasn't what I wanted to ask. You had mentioned that in some ways, when it comes down to faith, it would almost be better to believe and be wrong and there is no God than to not believe and there actually be a God. Would that be kind of fair? Is that kind of what you had mentioned?
Something like that, yeah. You know, I'm open to evidence. If there's evidence that God is real or not real, I would be open to it. You know?
If someone were to make the case and say, no, you know what, it's actually better to not believe in a God, even if a God is real, would you still believe in God, or would you say, nope, I'm not going to believe in it anymore?
No, I would still believe in it.
Okay, so that isn't really like what's like, even if you're like, that didn't happen at all, even if you didn't have that, you would still believe for the personal experience and
the community
and the community
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it just makes me who I am. You know, part of it. Like Kevin, he's a Christian boy, but you know, when you get to know me better, you know, I have certain restrictions, and then you know, like it's just part of my personality and who I am. You know, I could be fun. I can sometimes be like, that might not be the best thing to do. You know, being like sometimes it helps me stay out of trouble. You know, stuff like that. That's like most of that comes down to it.
And but that's what I'm trying to understand is how does any of that make it more likely that it's actually real?
Yeah, it's because I don't speak on behalf of everybody. I'm just
asking for yourself. Like you said that you're getting all of these positive things to happen in your life, but how does that have anything to do with it being real? Like how does
how does it have to do with it?
Yeah, how does like the scripture making sense to you, your personal experiences happening, you being raised in the culture, you enjoy doing it, how does that make it more likely that this is the case?
Yeah, that's how I said it comes down to personal faith, how much you believe in a God. But when like if I were if I were to ever debate someone about life or science or politics, I would not cite the Bible. I would stay away from that. I would always come up with a secular argument for anything. Like in politics, I won't be saying, abortion is wrong because the Bible said so. I would come up with a secular argument, come up with a scientific argument. If it was like the death penalty, and I would say I'm against it because thou shalt not kill, I wouldn't say that thou shalt not. That wouldn't be a good argument. I would actually try to go like, this is what it does to taxpayer money and all the effects of it. So that's how I would ultimately come up with arguments on the social level when I'm communicating with someone who is not a Christian, who is an atheist. I would respect anybody, and I'll always talk to them. But sometimes I'll bring up my faith. Like if they're really interested, I would talk about like. Some of my favorite metaphors from the Bible. You know.
So faith, would you say, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, would you say that faith is what's really kind of holding you up at that 60%?
Yeah.
Like even if you didn't have the personal experiences,
yeah.
Even if you didn't, or maybe you'd still enjoy being a Christian, but even if your mom didn't have to go through any of that, you would still believe 60% because of the faith?
Yeah, faith has a lot to do with it. That's why most people are Christian, honestly, because we have faith in a God, and we just attribute it to a God.
And you mentioned that someone can have faith in something and be mistaken about what it is. Like they can have faith in the flying spaghetti monster and be mistaken.
Yeah, we could be mistaken. I wouldn't say I'm 100% correct. What if Christianity is not
Well,
the correct way to praise a God.
How did you determine that it was even 60% the case?
It's just
Like
me.
how did your faith get you to 60%? Where someone else can use faith to be 60% in the spaghetti monster?
Yeah, 60% because of what I went through, the obstacles in my life, and I would always they would tell me constant prayer. Everything you do wrong, I make mistakes in life.
But let's say all of those things that I'm not saying that it's possible. But let's say all of those things that happen, there could be like another alternative explanation. That like some Mr. Smarty Pants science guy or whatever. It's like, oh, it's because of this, and this, and they were able to tell you in a convincing way, not like to debate with you. But they were like, no, like here's a videotape of everything that actually happened, so you can't deny.
I won't blind myself to it.
Okay, so even if they were to explain all of these different things that happened that caused the good things to happen in your life, at that point, would you discard your belief in God, or would you still be 60% confident in God, or would you lower your where would you?
I guess my faith could be like I'd be a lot more skeptical than what I am.
So
right now.
it would lower you down a little bit.
It would move around, honestly, because I would go back and I would talk to. But if I'm giving evidence, I'll be like, oh, okay, so then God had nothing to do with this. But if I were to go talk to my preacher, he'd probably be like, oh, God gave the intelligence to this one man, and I'd be like, okay, well, but my face would actually be going around. It would mean I have to study more. Okay. I'd have to do more research. I'd have to find out why did things happen the way they do, and why they don't happen. Like for me, I'm interested a little bit in biology, so life science, like cells, the sun, cellular respiration, all that stuff. It's interesting, really interesting to learn. So I'm not gonna close my mind, just be like, oh no, none of the science stuff. Like I'm gonna get it out of the way. God did this. Like that doesn't mean I should stop looking into it. I should always be seeking the truth. That's what most people want. Like we just want the truth. No, like most college students, they want enough. They're like, enough of the euphemisms. I want to know the truth. Exactly. I want it to be told the way it is, and that's how most people are. But we all have our own biases. We believe in these things, and that's why they're called beliefs and not truths. They're not called facts. They're called beliefs and faith.
And so to explore that one more time, if it turned out to be the case that the people that don't believe in a God are correct and there isn't a God, and right now you're at 60% because of faith and all of these awesome things that happen in your life, even though if someone else can explain them differently, you would kind of reduce yourself or lower yourself on that. Given the current spot that you're at right now, if there wasn't at all a God that existed, how would you find that out before you died?
How would I find that out if I died?
Before you die.
Before I die.
Or from here on out, even if a God doesn't exist, are you now essentially in a position where you're going to go through your life no matter what, believing that a God exists, even if it actually doesn't?
Yeah, it's kind of hard, because then I would have to know how that person got the evidence and whatnot. But if they did tell me that a God does not exist, this is a problem with a lot of Christians too, because
what would it take?
Tend to.
Can you think of anything that if you discovered it, you'd be like, oh, I'm wrong? Like an easy example is for me, gravity. It basically says that this pen, if I let go, is going to go drop on the table. So for me, how I would discover that I'm wrong about gravity, if I let go of the pen and it went up, I would be like, oh, I was wrong about gravity. Is there anything similar with that where you can discover and be like, oh, I was wrong?
Yeah, I think it is possible.
What would that be? Oh,
yeah.
What would that be for the Christian guy?
For the Christian, it's gonna be really hard because you can't the other thing is that people can't prove that God is real, but people can't prove that God is not real.
So I'm trying to understand. So if God didn't exist, if God wasn't real, how would you find that out, given the current position that you're at?
I really don't know. Like they would probably, a bunch of people would probably have to tell me, well, didn't you know this guy discovered that God wasn't real? And I'd be like, oh, okay, but it's still something we love to do. It's a community thing, and personal faith and all these things.
No, and like I said, I totally understand that, and for me, it almost seems to be the case that you can still be a part of this community without holding on to this belief that a God actually exists. And so for me, if that God didn't exist, how would you be like, oh, I was wrong? I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying you are, but maybe just something to think about. Like, what would it,
really, really something.
What would it take for you to just be like, because in a lot of ways, like you'd say like, oh, well, these scientists get
Yeah.
together and they say, oh, these are reasons why God doesn't
Yeah.
exist. But you say, okay, I'd hear that, but I'm not going to just drop my belief right away.
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, well, yeah, but God could still exist under this. So then you say,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's say bad stuff happens to me. It's like, okay, well, bad stuff. Okay, but now, no, God's just challenging me. God's testing me. So it's like, okay, well, then maybe it's, and you can keep going forever and ever, but continue to find a spot where it's like, oh, no, actually, God could have done this instead. And what I'm trying to understand, is there anything that you can discover to be like, oh, you know what? That actually, there's no way that it not even no way, but there's just, to come under the realization that like, oh, I don't,
Yeah.
there isn't,
It's really hard. I would have to look at that myself, like, because there are some people who just want to stop being a Christian. Sometimes it's like a burden on some of them. They're just like, oh, I have to hold myself to this high standard. Like, are you really happy with this belief? Are you really happy with being a Christian? Like, my pastor says this a lot to people. He's like, whenever we have the chance, sometimes we cheat on our beliefs. We go back on our principles. Sometimes, like, we would say partying is bad, but then there are some that actually attend parties and they go party hard and then we they're always like, we always want to cheat our principles. I try my hardest not to, and because like they're principles, and I just believe in order and pretty much that homeostasis for myself. I want to keep be calm and live my life peacefully and try to avoid as many problems as possible, but at the same time keep an open mind.
Absolutely. And to end, because I know now Mark wants to get ready to pack up, just to revisit the scale one more time. You had mentioned faith is a big component, personal experience, and the enjoyment of being a Christian, not necessarily having weight on the belief actually being true. Yet that is why you're at 60%, even though it doesn't have anything to do with it actually being true.
Yeah.
So would 60% be the most honest and accurate position to put yourself at if the reasons that you've used don't really have any weight to it being true?
Yeah. I guess, it could be 50-50. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, any questions for me before you get out
No,
of
I'm
here?
fine.
What did you think of the talk? Interesting?
Really, really good, You always have something for me to think about. Always. That's what's good, I should question myself, be assured, always look for that assurance.
Absolutely. That's what I try to do. That's one thing I love about philosophy is it's not really confrontational. It just gets people to think.
Why?
Yeah, like why? How did you come to this belief? Why do you believe this? If you were wrong, how would you find out? Because for me, one of the scariest things is like believing something to be true and it totally being wrong.
Yeah.
Like the common example I use is, imagine I've got a girlfriend. Okay, I don't, but I've got a girlfriend, and let's say that my belief, I am, let's say 60% confident that she's loyal to me and she is not hooking up with anyone else, okay? But there's no way for me to find out that I'm wrong about that. Let's say she lives in a different city, I hardly ever see her, and so there's no way for me to actually catch her cheating because she's good at it.
Yeah.
But let's say that she actually is banging every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the city, but there was no way for me to find out.
Yeah.
I would go my entire life living with this person, thinking that she was only being loyal to me, when in actuality I was wrong and she was hooking up with everyone. And so that's what I'm terrified of is having a belief
that is totally wrong.
Not even that, but having a belief that I can't find out is wrong.
Yeah.
Because if I believe that she's loyal, but I can't find out that she's not, then I'm in a position where even if she's not loyal, I still think she is. And I'm spending my entire life believing that she's loyal and she's not.
Yeah.
And my whole goal is to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things. And so I really want to, it's kind of how I try to approach it.
Nice
Kevin, it was a pleasure, my man. Thank you so much, dude.
All right.